Hello and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I am your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me, as always, is the always fantastic, or would you prefer terrific, Kris
Tonight,
Ingersoll.
tonight, buddy, fantastic. Just suits us, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It certainly does, Kris. We're doing a whole new type of episode tonight.
Yeah.
We're not trying to keep it light tonight, but we're not diving deep back into our past nostalgia. We are going with an up-to-date property. Can you set the stage for us?
Yeah, I mean, this conversation was just too grand to stay out of, right? We don't typically jump into every pop culture moment that's happening. We had to do our media light bit for Superman. We both were salivating to talk more about that film. But this too is just such a huge moment for superhero films, for summer movies in general. And so we had to find a way to unite our own Fantastic Four for what I hope is a really fantastic conversation about a movie I had a ton of fun with. So without further ado, let me bring you into the know on these very special guests we've welcomed tonight. Returning to the pod for the first time in a while, we've got Shruti Marathe. Welcome back to the podcast. And it has not been too long, but is even one pod too long without Leah Marilla Thomas here on Media Lit? Welcome back to the pod, Leah. We are trying to
Thank
be
you
better
guys.
in the modern day, to invite our guests up top to plug your work in the world, plug your socials, let the folks know where they can find you right up top. So we'll throw it back to you, Shruti. What do you got out there?
I have a podcast called Chaos on the Set. It has been fairly dormant since Severance season 2 ended, unfortunately, but we will definitely be back up and running for some Oscar coverage. So definitely just subscribe to the feed. And when my other life is not taking too much of my time, I cannot wait to dive back into that. My favorite part of the podcast is the Marvel episodes that I got to do with Leah. So I'm glad that even though Chaos on the Set isn't currently up and running, I still snuck in a way to talk to Leah about the most recent Marvel release.
Yeah, and I'm just honored that we got a chance to do it right here on Media Lit because I love chaos on the set, and I'm glad we get to hear your perspectives here.
Awesome. And Leah, what about you?
You can well, lately a couple of my usual outlets have been at a bit of a stall, no fault of my own. But you can find my writing at Cosmopolitan, at Collider primarily these days, hopefully more stuff. Yeah, and we really went through the trenches of the MCU on Chaos of the sh on Chaos, Jesus, Chaos on the set. So this is good. We have needed a check-in for a minute.
Yeah.
And you can follow me at Leah Marilla. As I always say, my profiles are locked, but that doesn't mean you can't come in. Ah,
Well said. That is one of my favorites. When you were referring to the trenches, my mind, of course, immediately goes to Taylor Swift and the epic 4-hour marathon that we enjoyed together. You're often in the trenches, I
I
can tell.
am. I was just thinking a lot about when we did Quantum Mania and the
Mm.
agony I went through that week, being like, I really should see this movie a second time. I'm gonna be talking about it. I should really go and see it again, and I don't want to.
Oh
I
no.
remember sitting in the theater for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness the second time being like, I could just leave and walk into Everything Everywhere All at Once right now so easily, but I have to watch this worst multiverse movie.
That's extra sad.
Yeah, they
This
weren't all
worst
the best
multiverse movie.
moments. Yeah, you can't even blame it all on COVID. However, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, maybe Marvel has gotten to be just a little bit of a mess at times, whether or not you loved or hated the Fantastic Four, I think we can all agree that it kept itself unified within its own little realm, its own little Earth 828, and surrounding areas. It did not try to bring in any outside characters, or pull us too far out of this world. That being said, it's inevitable. We know that it's coming. We saw those chairs line up. We know we're going to see some sort of overlap. Could there be some creative solution that keeps the walls between these worlds from falling down too much? Perhaps. But Kris and I were talking off pod recently about our guy Alan coming, cracking a joke about being back in that Nightcrawler makeup and doing things like punching Pedro Pascal in the face. Perhaps he was just being cute, dropping the biggest name in the MCU right now. Perhaps he let something slip. I don't know. But whether we like it or not, we are going to see these Fantastic Four characters interacting with the MCU at large. So before we get into this film itself, I just want to play a little mini game. I want to think ahead, and I want to know which character from the existing MCU you would assign to just kind of help bring the Fantastic Four into this world, help them through their transition, bring us from Earth 828 to where we're going, or vice versa, whatever sort of overlap has to happen here. Now, Leah, I know a little bit of what you're going to say here, so I'm going to save you for last. So instead, I'm
You
going to
do?
start. I got a hint of where you're going with this, so I want to go to you last. But Shruti, who would you draft to bring these characters into the existing MCU?
Okay, I'm sorry to be. I didn't honestly. I thought I had an answer that came to mind, and I didn't give it a second guess. Now I'm like, maybe I should have like actually looked at a list of characters and been like, are any of these better? But the first name, obviously, that comes to mind is Kamala Khan because what
Yes.
Hmm.
kind of energy do you want to meet when you first come into the world? I think she has. First of all, she knows everything about everyone, so you're gonna get the facts, but you're also gonna get a great vibe. And I would love to have Bruno be by her side just because
Yes.
that is also helpful. I think Reed Richards and Bruno would have a lot to talk about, and why not just have them have a tech connection, a science connection immediately?
I love that answer, Shruti, because, well, the Fantastic Four seem to be living in a bit of a utopia. Um, there do seem to be some pretty like conservative norms for behavior and things like that. So I think that Reed Richards would not quite know what to do with Kamala at first, and to watch her win him over would be a total joy. So I love that. Um, Kris, I'm gonna go to you next. Who are you gonna draft?
I found this challenging to answer because I think that like there's probably a cheeky way to approach it and a more serious way to approach it. More seriously, I think that Sam Wilson is a great fit here, right? We've seen him come alongside Captain America as a friend and as a counselor, even, right? He's a person who helps people in moments of transition, specifically folks who've been through trauma and are also now transitioning in life. And so I think Sam Wilson's a good fit, like practically, but that is absolutely no fun at all. No fun whatsoever. And the truth of my heart is that I think that there's somebody else um, who I have called the heart of the MCU before. This is where I need to turn to Yelena Belova. This is where I need
Ooh.
somebody who sees the world as it is, maybe through a bit of a cynical lens, but like I think she has this perfect blend of like hopeful cynicism. There's a world that she wants to believe in. There's a
Mhm.
world she almost participates in making happen, but she's also experienced too damn much to really lie to herself about roses, right? And so I think as these Fantastic Four who are coming from a really idyllic world transition into this new space of existence, Yelena might have just the right touch. She's also a huge, big-hearted person who's going to understand their needs for quiet times, needs for healing. And I think with her, you get Red Guardian. And to think that like Alexi's perspective on the world is going to at all influence how any of these four people perceive the world that they are joining is delightful to me. So I'll give it to Elena.
Perfect. Love these answers, Leah. I won't save you for last. I'll put myself in that position. But Leah, who is your person you're going to assign to this case? Who gets the Fantastic Four into this world?
Did you think I was gonna say Ghost because of my storyline from the last one? Because now I'm very disappointed. I was simply going to say Spider-Man.
Ooh, tell me
I was
more.
going to go with the most basic, a character who has teamed up with the Fantastic Four many times, who is in an interesting position right now, and I would like to get him out of it where people don't know who he is, but he knows who everybody else is.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
I love this. I love the idea of this Johnny
great friends with,
Storm.
yeah, he's great friends with Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
Oh
A
yeah,
He's
couple of young
smart.
science bros.
yeah.
Ugh,
Good. A couple of good
bring back the
boys.
Science Bros.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect fit. Leah, I thought you were going to go in a slightly different direction, so I'm going to swing back to you after I give my answer. Until moments ago, I thought I knew my answer. I was already to talk about how I wanted my guy Mobius to do the job.
Oh,
Like we
Wow.
figured we could use the
my husband.
TVA for this transition between worlds.
Wow.
Um, but then the more and more I thought about it, I was just like, Reed Richards is the one guy who's not going to be thrown by the TVA. Like he's gonna roll with it, and I don't think I'm gonna get as much humor or dramatic tension as I want out of it. So I was trying to figure out which character brings that to the table, and I realized there's a better answer than Mobius, as much as I am dying to see him again. I want it to be none other than Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, a a a dark mover and shaker in a cynical world. The Fantastic Four are not going to know what the hell just hit them when they meet this woman. And that is going to be the clash of personalities that will be comic gold, and create some great dramatic tension as well.
They're so naive coming from their
Hmm.
idyllic little world. I don't know if they're ready. I think there's going to be a whole first act where she's got them doing crazy things, thinking and believing crazy things. Oh dear me.
Also, I respect the Mobius pick of someone not from 626 being the 626 guy. It's a very
Oh,
bird's eye view like opinion,
And
I
he's an
guess.
expert,
I think I
Hmm.
was just showing my
kind of.
626 bias, apparently. I didn't even
Or
know
sorry,
I had it.
616, right?
Yeah.
I was just taking you at your word because I could not have told you point blank what the correct number was. But no, Leah, the reason I thought I was understanding where you were going to go with this was you said something right before we started recording that I thought was interesting. Um, Leah, you were saying you kind of wish that these Fantastic Four never had to interact with the rest of the
I
MCU.
think they should stay safe.
Yeah,
I think
tell
they
me
should
some more
stay.
about that. I love this.
Sweet
It's such
summer
a, I
children.
mean, it's such a bummer. They have such a nice world where
Hmm.
people like them and respect them, and so much of this movie is what if the world had a superhero team that liked each other and worked well together all the time? It'd be good,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, there was this moment when the Fantastic Four were trying to like grab the velocity of the gravitational pull of a planet to power their spaceship, and we were opening a black hole to suck the Silver Surfer inside, where I was like, oh, did this mid-century modern budget dry up? Are we about to launch this ship into the existing MCU right in the middle of the movie?
Yeah, my
Uh,
roommate thought that as well.
and I was quite relieved when it didn't go in that
Mm.
direction. But yeah, this was such a fun world to live in. Um, was it successful? Yes, no. To what extent? We're going to get into all of that. But before we go any deeper, I'm going to give a little synopsis. Now, I don't usually give an opinion before I read the synopsis, but I do want to say I really enjoyed the Fantastic Four, but I am saying it because when I tried to sum this up relatively quickly, I was really in a cheeky mood writing my summary, and I'm afraid it's going to sound like I did not enjoy the movie, but I really did. I have a lot of great things to say, but I do have some critiques. So here is my take on the Fantastic Four First Steps. We meet the latest iteration of the Fantastic Four on Earth 828, a mid-century modern sci-fi utopia where most world powers have dissolved their military forces and placed their care in the hands of four superpowered Americans. Reed Richard and Sue Storm are father and mother to a naive and trusting global populace. But early in the film, they learn that they are about to become biological parents as well. Sadly, Shala Bal, the harbinger of Galactus, star surfs her way into the atmosphere to announce that Galactus is about to snack on the planet. She recommends everyone accept their fate and have a killer party to look back on all the good times. The Fantastic Four aren't having any of this, so they follow some energy signatures or whatever all the way to Galactus. It turns out that Galactus is willing to spare the Earth. Only the thing is, he's gonna have to take the boy. Yep.
No.
Apparently, baby Franklin is a vessel of unlimited cosmic power who can inherit the hunger that consumes Galactus. Reed and company say, no way. And then they do some science-y black hole stuff to evade the Silver Surfer, while Sue gives birth in zero gravity. It's mostly a giant bummer, but Johnny Storm is pretty sure that Shalabal caught feelings, and he begins his preparations to charm the apocalypse away. The Fantastic Four return to Earth with their tails between their legs, but those simpletons back on Earth 828 are very upset at the family's refusal to sacrifice their baby to an angry god. Though they do get over it rather quickly when Sue steps into the middle of an angry mob and hits them with a Fast and the Furious monologue. Then the movie goes full Doctor Who as the citizens of Earth pool their resources to create a network of devices that can teleport the Earth and hide it from Galactus. Sadly, they're like 10 seconds too late, so they have to teleport Galactus instead. Johnny successfully charms Shalabal with his mad linguistic skill and sends her on a quick redemption arc to give Galactus a final nudge into the portal after Sue literally kills herself, pushing him to the edge. Baby Franklin activates his godly powers to resurrect his mom, and everyone lives happily ever after until a shadowy figure appears inside the Baxter building a few years later. So there you have it. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What other details would you like to emphasize? Was I too dismissive?
No, the cheek is the charm, my friend. You have a really wonderful way of bringing these kinds of things to life in just so few sentences. I think you did real justice to this movie, even if there was some cheek along the way. It's either you go all sap or a little bit of cheek, and I think you balance that
Mhm.
very, very well. I have nothing to add. Guests, anything that Randy missed?
And then Natasha Lyonne is there, and then she's not.
She
Nice.
is there. I caught her for a second.
She sure is there with straight hair, so that's exciting.
Unrecognizable. Unrecognizable. Like Colin Farrell is the Penguin levels of unrecognizable.
Yeah, you really had to look closely or you just might miss it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so Kris, this isn't quite a traditional episode, so how are we going to approach this next section of the pod?
Yeah, as you said, we're not going to go too deep, but we still have to establish our personal connections. Now, this is a brand new movie. This is a brand new franchise within the larger MCU. And so we can't really do it that way, right? We really can't talk about our deep connections to the Fantastic Four, maybe a little. So let's start more broadly. I'd love to understand our guest connections to the larger MCU fandom and the consumption of all this content we've been getting since the early aughts. So, Shruti, we'll go to you first. What's an important memory you have connected to, or maybe even a relationship connected to the MCU?
Yeah, I have a really weird relationship to the MCU. I like did not follow superhero movies at all growing up. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't in my orbit or things my friends talked about, like to the fact where my freshman year of college, my friend's passcode had to do with Tony Stark and I said, "Who's Tony Stark?" And she looked at me like I had like murdered somebody. And I now understand why I got that look of shock. But literally it was when Infinity War came out my junior year of college and everyone was a buzz about it. That's when I'm like, there's something I'm being left out of right now and I don't like it. So literally in that 1 year between Infinity War and Endgame, I watched as many Marvel movies as I could to then watch Endgame in theaters. Loved it. Told my twin sister, "Oh my God, you would love this." This was right as we were graduating college. So then she watched all the Marvel movies and we were living separately, but I would watch them on my end and like would keep a running note of like think questions to ask her and we would discuss them. And it really connected us in a first year post grad discussing all these Marvel movies. Then she was visiting me for Endgame, so we got to watch Endgame together. It was amazing. And then right after that, my oldest sister decided that she wanted to watch the Marvel movies. So essentially, in a 3 year time period, I watched the whole Infinity Saga 3 times and got to
Nice.
experience it with a sister each time. And we all watched Endgame together. So all of those journeys were have been really, really fun. And I also feel a little bit less fatigue, I think, for having gotten into the Marvel game so
Mm.
late. But I've never, because of all of this, I've never seen a Fantastic Four property. I've never seen
Hmm.
an X-Men. Like I I know I need to watch Logan and all of that, and I will get to it one day. But yeah, I'm definitely very behind. But even with all of that, I still really enjoyed this movie, and I'm still liking being a Marvel fan and being part of that. Now we have a whole family group chat called Korg Fan Club, where
Nice.
we're always talking
Perfect.
about the latest Marvel release.
That is absolutely beautiful. I love that you got started late, but then really put in the work to earn, you put in the hours in the MCU fandom. I absolutely love that. Leah, what about you? Is there a
Okay,
specific memory or something
I'm gonna go through the
recent?
whole history.
Okay.
I'll get more
Yeah.
specific with Fantastic Four. So the MCU was my gateway into superhero stuff in terms of loving it. So like I had kind of a hesitant relationship. I had seen a couple of old Superman movies, a couple X-Men movies, the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, maybe a Batman or two, and there was like clearly something there, but I wasn't fully in. I really liked the show Heroes. I loved The Incredibles.
Hmm.
And I think like looking back, what I think my barrier was the concept of secret identities. I don't like
Mm.
lying. I don't like when the stakes are like, oh, I'm at a gala and I have to be two different versions of myself,
Mm.
like Mrs. Doubtfire, or like you've got two dates to the prom. What do you do? Like that's just not for me. But then my dad and I go to see Iron Man in theaters. He's kind of intrigued. He's like, that's an interesting character to make a superhero movie about,
Mm.
you know? And I went, no, I don't know, Dad, but okay. And then I'm watching this movie, and there's a character who is smart, who is solving problems on screen. And then at the end, completely rejects the concept of a secret identity. And it's like a weight has
Hmm.
been lifted. And I'm like, this is for me. And then there's this
Nice.
end credits scene where Nick Fury says something about the Avengers. And my dad goes, oh, that's interesting. The Avengers. That's an interesting thing to do. Like, and we put together that this is all going to be a series. And I, like, when I was a little kid, like middle school, early high school, I used to go to the library and like look for book series that had as many installments as possible and try and see, like, oh, do I like this? Um, so the prospect of a long series of movies, very appealing to me. So I have sort of been like sold from the beginning, and I'm still kind of like optimistically, I have my own ups and downs with this franchise that don't necessarily correspond to everybody else's. Um, it got me back into reading comics. It
Mhm.
got me when I started writing professionally, that was when Daredevil premiered. Um, and Agents of Shield and Agents of Carter, like all those shows were getting started. And so it also became very tied to my professional life. And then, I did the
Hmm.
Newcomers podcast, so I got to go back through the MCU through their eyes. It's all encompassing, and I could still be doing more.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, like I
Yep.
said, we've been doing this since 2008. We could
Yeah.
always be doing more. They've given us so much content. Love that you shared that first one with your dad.
Yeah.
No, no, Dad, I don't know, but I'd love to find out with you. That's great. Randy, tell the folks at home about the MCU and you.
Yeah. I was a lapsed superhero fan. I was really excited for like that first live action X-Men, that first live action Spider-Man. These were coming out when I was in high school. I know my middle age is showing right now. But it wasn't until like the mid 2010s that I really caught up with the MCU. I think it was a few factors coming together. One was being a young teacher, hearing about this from my students. Another one was just so many of my friends had kept up with it. Uh, I met my good buddy Jonathan Courtrial, who you can hear back on our Telltale Heart episode from last October, who was like a huge nerd. We started checking out all these Marvel movies together. Guardians of the Galaxy really worked for me. And I think also when early fatherhood hit, and I had a lot of hours with a small child who could not speak or move quite yet, gave me a lot of great opportunities to catch up on Marvel movies that I wasn't quite making time for uh, before I was a dad. Um, but where it really took off was, when I got really into listening to podcasts and I met you fine folks through the storm. All these people who loved theorizing about Lost and literature were also loving talking about comic book movies on this same level. And now when a movie comes out, like, yeah, I'm excited for the movie, but I'm even more excited to maybe do a podcast with some really smart people and hear what they have to say.
Beautiful. I'm grateful that we get to podcast together, my friend. I do go back to the beginning with the MCU. I think I saw Iron Man in theaters from the jump, but there weren't a ton of people in my life that I shared it with. There was like the general pop culture sense that Iron Man was really popular when it first came out, but then your Captain Americas, your Thors, um, I wanted to go see those, but this was at a time in my life where I was like, I wasn't in college, right? I had like moved home, had stopped going to school so I could work and contribute. Most of my friends were still in school. Like my class wouldn't graduate till 2010. So like in the beginning of the MCU, I was on this like weird social island where I had some like local like work friends, and I had my brother. My younger
Hmm.
brother is like my best friend, and not for a lack of choices. He is just my best pal. That's the easiest way to say it. We've shared these movies from the beginning. Before I knew that I wanted to have a podcast where I talked about movies and stories and how they affect us, all I knew was that I wanted to see this movie with Cody and then sit on the couch for as many hours as we could spare and talk about it. Talk about the way the film was made, talk about the way the story was told, talk about what might be coming next. We had like that perfect blend of film passion and comic book passion. So we were so nerdy about the characters and the sci-fi and the adventure of it all, but then also really intrigued by what the MCU was doing and what was the potential of this type of storytelling in cinema. And so, yeah, my brother Cody and I have been doing this MCU thing together in the movies for a really long time, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think in general, the MCU has become that thing that helps me find people in the world. Not everybody is like I can be a weird Batman fan. Like I really like Batman, and not everybody's ready for that. But a lot of folks are like
Hmm.
casual comic book fans because of the MCU. And if you can vibe on at least a little casual comic book stuff, then we can get along. So, like when I lived in New York City, and that was new for me, it was a way of finding the folks who I could at least have a conversation with and enjoy. So, I've always appreciated the way that these stories can connect us.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Kris, I'm going to throw this right back to you. I think we've all talked a little bit, not only about our MCU history, but how it connects to our personal lives. But I was curious, Kris, has your MCU fandom impacted your professional life in any way?
You know, not my professional life per se, other than like I just said, when I was in New York City and I had just moved there for the sake of my job. I was with
Right, right,
I was
right.
with Burberry at the time. Burberry moved me there to work at their flagship store, and I knew nobody. I had absolutely no reason otherwise for being there. I was fortunate that Kelly moved with me, but yeah, there at work, we had a lot of hours to kill on the sales floor. I don't know if you know how
Yeah.
busy like a luxury store is in New York City. It can be really busy, and it can be really, really not so busy.
Mm.
And so I think maybe it impacted my professional life by keeping me sane enough to stay on the selling floor for all those hours that helped me grow my career and eventually
There
get
you
out of
go.
retail. That might be it. And then there's this. That's, not a professional endeavor, but dude, there's no way I'd rather spend my time than podcasting about this stuff and doing it with you. So I think if not for the MCU and the nerd space that we both joined together, we wouldn't be here doing this. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna wait to give my answer, but yeah, I'm just gonna yes and you, Kris. You know, like you said, this podcast may not be a professional endeavor, but it's a pretty important part of my lifestyle these days. And as an English teacher, having these types of conversations on a regular basis is really helpful. People who listen to this show know that the podcast is loosely based on teaching a class. So it is like deeply intertwined with my work as a teacher. And the MCU has been a nice, consistent little shorthand to have with a lot of my students who go to see the movie. Sometimes the kids you would expect, but also a lot of students who surprise you with their MCU fandom and their interest in superheroes. So it's an easy in for an easy conversation. When they're finally sick of hearing me talk about Gatsby, I can drop a little MCU on them. I actually often use the film Black Panther in class. So yeah, there's a lot you can unlock through superheroes. Shruti, how about you? How has your MCU fandom impacted your professional life?
I probably would not have gotten this current job were it not my MCU fandom. My I very frequently host watch parties for whatever is on Sunday night HBO or
Hmm.
etc. And I hosted weekly or bi-weekly watch parties for Miss Marvel when it was airing on the days that I didn't have to go into the office. And when I was applying for a new job, I got referred to a friend because this job has to deal a lot with South Asian culture. They're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
Shruti is so invested in South Asian culture. She hosted weekly Miss Marvel watch parties." Was in the
Nice.
referral letter, which is funny because I host watch parties for everything. But
Yeah.
I appreciated the little boost, and then I got to this position where I am today. So I feel very lucky for that. And I guess thanks Iman Vellani for that one.
She's the gift that just keeps giving, isn't she?
Seriously.
And a podling, I'm certain. So she'll hear this.
I'm sure she could teach us a thing or two, if we ever got to chat with her. That would be a blast. Leah, I know you've got like the most literal answer to this question, but how has being an MCU fan impacted your career?
Well, yeah, so like I said, I started when I started writing was when the Netflix shows were coming out, and I very quickly cemented myself at my then outlet as like the superhero girly, like the person who is willing to read through a bunch of fan wikis for comics that she has not read and make sense of them and make it seem like she has in fact read them. And then sometimes go and read them. It's all research, no matter how. Um, and Newcomers, and what else? Doing pods with folks. Yeah. I'm always down to doing it. This is weird. This is a weird week to ask me this because I spent last week pitching about 20 different, that's an exaggeration, but we're gonna go with it. 20 different outlets, like
Yeah.
angles for this movie, and not a single one of them sold. So I kind of
Mm.
my Sunday Scaries wants me to say like, no, it hasn't done anything for me, but it has done a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And I get to
Well,
talk about all of those opinions now for free. So that's good. At least I get to say them to somebody.
exactly. Hey, if they wise up, they're gonna want your take because I always I love
Listen,
a Leah Marilla Thomas take whenever I get it. So
Hell yeah. And you're validating the efforts of all the folks populating those fan wikis. It is absolutely valid research. Why are they
hmm
making them, if not so the folks can read them and understand
who
the
are these
comics?
people? I love them. They're the best.
So much work they're putting in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
why
like my
can't
own comic collection has tripled since then, since those
Mm,
days. So, it's all going to a good place.
you know
yeah.
what, Leah? You just opened an old wound for me.
Oh no.
Uh, I didn't think I would talk about her today, but you just reminded me of how mad I am at Rory Gilmore
Oh no.
for getting the assignment to write a story about people who wait in lines and then like refuses to do any research for her topic when she walks directly by a line of people waiting in line. Give Leah,
She walks by a line of people waiting for nobody.
yeah,
That's your angle right there. That's the
yeah,
most incredible angle.
give Leah that
Ugh,
story. She will make it dance for you.
gosh.
I mean, whew.
Rory. Ah, I don't know how I'm going to move past that, but I think we need to talk about the Fantastic Four. So let's
I mean,
zero in
fair.
a little bit more closely on the property at hand. I think we've established not everybody has a standing relationship with the Fantastic Four, either in the comics or the films. But let's go around the horn. Let's talk about a memory you have connected either to the Fantastic Four specifically in the films, comic books, or maybe even a performer who's in this film. I think we all love the performers in this film. I'm going to go to you first, Leah.
Okay. So, as I sort of alluded to before, I hadn't seen the 2005 movie. I'd maybe seen it in like a concert band class. That was the class in high school where people were most likely to put on bullshit movies.
Hmm.
But I watched it in full in lockdown, either 2020 or 2021, with a group of people that would do, it was just a little group text, and we would, 3, 2, 1, play, chat through the movie. And the moment, it was such a specific little turn of the head
Mm.
from Reed Richards. And I texted my friends, I'm in love with him. It was just such an incredibly strong reaction to a small moment for a character that nobody else liked.
Hmm.
And after we watched other movies, I started reading the 2018 run of the comics, the Dan Slott run. I'm not done
Mm.
with them because I read kind of slow and I got distracted by other things, but I've been plugging through. I was like, I need to cement myself as a fan. I need to get some credentials before this movie comes out because I had such a strong reaction to a Welshman in one movie.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that memory. Randy, we'll go to you next. Where are you with the Fantastic Four or the folks who are in this film?
Yeah, listen, I'm a Fantastic Four. Well, I was a Fantastic Four blank slate going into this movie. This is my first Fantastic Four film
Okay.
that I've ever watched. I have never read a Fantastic Four comic. Um, I vaguely like knew the makeup of the team. I vaguely knew like the archetype that I thought Johnny Storm was and Reed Richards and all that good stuff. But I had literally zero investment in them whatsoever. I thought I kind of knew the power sets, but hopefully somebody at some point tonight can explain to me what Sue Storm's power set is. Because I didn't understand how she was moving stuff around. It looked cool though. I did love the effect for it. And I'd love to see her saving the day. But no, I'm gonna lean into the Joseph Quinn of it all because he was the casting choice that I was the most curious about. Um, I enjoy Stranger Things quite a bit. I won't go down the road of the pros and cons of Stranger Things, but I found him incredibly charming. That was my introduction to this performer, and the next to see the next big role he got be this Johnny Storm character was fascinating to me because it told me this performer must have some range.
Mhm.
That D&D, freaks and geeks sort of guy he plays in Stranger Things seems like the perfect character to become typecast as.
Hmm.
So to see him break out of that so quickly really intrigued me, and I was really excited going in. And I'll say I was overall happy with his performance. So that was my nostalgia factor going in, or that was my investment going in. Is what can Joseph Quinn do?
Absolutely wonderful. I do want to challenge you, though.
Hmm.
Uh, I know you well enough now to challenge your own personal history.
Oh yeah,
You're not exactly a blank slate on the Fantastic Four. You've
I know where you're
seen
going with this.
Johnny Storm portrayed on screen once before, Randy,
Yes, I
in
have.
Deadpool and Wolverine. So I,
Well,
you
and
have the direct
technically, we've also
comparison.
seen Reed Richards in Doctor
This is
Strange in the
true.
Multiverse of
Don't
Madness.
get me started.
That's true
That
too.
should have
I
been my
did
memory,
see.
actually.
That's
The
true
fact
too.
that
He's
the fact
with
that
the blaze. He looks good.
I am the person on trial by content who said
Yes.
that John Krasinski doesn't look smart enough to play Reed Richards.
Yeah, that's right. I have seen fan
My
service Reed
hater,
Richards and
my hater moment.
a very foul-mouthed Johnny Storm, who was one of the highlights of that movie for me, for sure.
Certainly. Which brings me around to my own personal connections with these. Oh no, Shruti, we're gonna go to you first. I got to go last. I don't like to go in the middle. Shruti, what about you?
I mean, I also have not seen a Fantastic Four property, and so I will just shout out Sarah Niles, cast member of Fantastic Four, who was also in F1, the only cast
Hmm.
member in
Nice.
both F1 and F4. So shout out to
Hmm.
her, really bringing home the summer box office bucks.
She's got F's to give. No, very good. Also, a favorite performer of mine, a la Ted Lasso. So very, very cool.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I have gone on record on podcasts before talking about films from the past, and I tend to be unapologetic about my love for certain things.
Hmm.
I do have to apologize in this case for the 2005 Fantastic Four film and the amount of nostalgic love that I still hold for it. I cannot apologize for really any of the content in that film. It is indefensible for the most part. However, I did see it at a time where I was like a young person who just loved comic books. I loved
Hmm.
these characters. I loved cartoons. I loved that this was like a cartoon come to life back then. And yeah, I thought Chris Evans' Johnny Storm was the coolest dude. Just the coolest, most unattainable version of cool to a young me. So yeah, I've always wanted to see them get this right. Like even back then, without without knowing the comic book super well, by the second Fantastic Four movie with the Silver Surfer, I had got the impression that people who did really know the comics well were disappointed. Like, I was a comic fan in general, the idea of comic books, the cartoons that went along with comic books, but I wasn't like deep in the single issues of Fantastic Four by any means. So I think I've always had this like lingering hope that they'll someday get this right. In 2015, they didn't. We won't sugarcoat it. They simply did not. In fact, most folks don't even talk about that. They like to bring up 2005 because it's like easy to shit on, to poke fun at, and to like sort of curl your lip up at, because some of it is so offensive. But 2015 just gets forgotten about. We just pretend it didn't really happen. So yeah, I needed this to be good. I wanted the MCU to have like a really solid installment, more so than for Thunderbolts, who were playing with a lot of existing characters, right? This had a different kind of weight of consequence on it, whether or not these characters worked. And then who these characters are to Marvel, the first family.
Yeah.
Like, this had a lot riding on it. And I personally felt some of that because I wanted to see them make me feel the way I felt when I saw that first 2005 one, which, family was a big part of it then. It was a big part of it here. So yeah, grateful that I got to enjoy this one the way that I did. Okay, so we've done personal connections here. I think that we
Wait,
can.
sorry. I'm like Googling this 2015 Fantastic Four movie because I
Oh,
genuinely didn't know it existed.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's
Some
talk
fun
about it.
surprises in there.
It's like, okay, it's like this weird
This
cast
cast,
of.
I'm excited. I
The
wanna
cast is
watch
good.
it.
The first about 40 minutes, you're like, okay, they're cooking with something, and then it completely falls off.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
I
make some
literally
really
just pulled up on
strange
Letterboxd.
choices. And that cast was sort of like the Hollywood of the future that didn't quite happen.
Mm,
Like Miles
yeah.
Teller, I think almost had a resurgence with Top Gun Maverick, but I'm not sure if we'll see him in many more like starring leading man roles moving forward. I haven't heard much chatter. What does he have coming next? Am I
Well,
ignorant?
he's got an A24 movie that I just learned about today with Elizabeth Olsen and Callum Turner. I think that's the right Callum. There's a couple of Callums,
There
but
are
I think it's
Callums,
Callum
yes.
Turner. And the plot of this is so it's if I read this on Letterboxd like hours ago, but I think it's like Elizabeth Olsen's character dies and she is given a choice between two different afterlives. She
Mhm.
can be with her husband who she spent her life with, or she can be with like a young first love who died too young and she never got to have a life with. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, yes. Like, tell me more. I
Whoa.
was
Right?
expecting you to tell me
I
what she
don't know.
chooses.
Well, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's the movie. And I don't know
Right.
I don't know who is who. I'm
Okay.
assuming Callum Turner plays the young dead guy because he's a little bit younger than Miles Teller, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so maybe Miles's time is still to come. I think that.
Yeah,
But
it's Glenn Powell really got
Mm.
the juice from Top Gun Maverick, which is not fair. He's not
He didn't get the
the
part.
lead in that movie. Yeah.
I
But
can't wait to see Running Man.
he somehow got the blessing.
Mm.
Yeah,
What
he
I'll
did.
say
He was
about
the anointed
him is
one.
that he's been hustling for a while,
Oh
and I
yeah,
feel like now,
absolutely.
Yeah.
so I'll give it to him now.
Yeah.
Like you look up how much old
He's
Glenn Powell
earned
was,
it.
and you're like, okay, you've been around.
Yeah, putting in the work, paying his dues. Okay, so we've done it, right? We
But
did.
also Michael B. Jordan's not he's doing fine.
He's the exception to the
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard. Mara, what is Mara's? She's a heiress to the Giants' fortune. What is?
Yeah, so she doesn't need it.
No, yeah, she's fine. They tried to make Shooter happen, anyways. Let's talk about
And
this
then
film.
Sweet Sweet Billy Elliot, but he's fine as well. He'll be okay.
Oh, and he was in that other franchise that didn't happen, Jumper. Hayden Christensen. We're teleporting.
That's right.
Yes, liked that movie myself, but what do I know?
One of my favorite college memories was when I was in the dorm where we all watched Lost. And the trailer for Jumper comes on, and the guy whose room it was turned to all of us and dead serious goes, "Guys, we got to learn to jump. We got to do it."
I felt pretty strongly about that at the time
Yeah,
myself. I
we
don't
got to
blame him.
figure it out. All right, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. Let's talk about this film as literature. We've done personal connections, but it's time for the bread and butter of media lit. So let's keep it light and fun to begin with. I want to talk about the literary or pop culture connections that were on your mind while watching this film. Randy, we'll go to you first here.
Well, Kris, I'm happy to report I'm going to take at least one podcast off from mentioning The Great
Come
Gatsby.
on. I've been waiting all day to find out how you would connect The Great Gatsby to the Fantastic
Uh,
Four.
I
Fine.
could if I wanted to, but I don't care to. No, listen, I made a comment about this in my synopsis. But man, Doctor Who was really on my mind watching this movie. It had what really felt like a lot of Doctor Who logic to me, like this solution where the world is suddenly going to band together to build all of these towers to teleport an entire planet to another place. Um, I don't dare to pretend I understand scientific concepts like Reed Richards. But when he said like moving a planet is the same as moving an egg, that didn't quite seem accurate to me, whether we're talking about molecular complexity or the ethical questions or, can the Earth even survive in this place that it's going to be teleported to? I mean, I guess we can just say he's smart enough that he figured it out, and I can live with that. But it just felt like such a Doctor Whovian thing to do. Like Reed Richards was the doctor for this world, and I am going to orchestrate an impossible solution. And Kris, we are still in the midst of our journey introducing you to Doctor Who, so I'm going to drop a reference that you don't understand quite yet. But Baby Franklin was giving me the Bad Wolf vibes, hard. So yeah, Doctor Who was on my mind a lot.
I want to validate that reference. Is that enough?
Someday you
Because
will.
okay, wonderful. Thank you. Awesome. Excellent. I'm still a little shocked that you didn't connect Gatsby, but I do believe you could if you so chose.
The people have heard enough of that.
Yeah, for now. Shruti, what about you? Any other pop culture that was top of mind or any literary references sneaking in here?
Mm, I was thinking, okay, well, I have to mention when a child is asked to be given up, you always have to remember
Mm.
Stannis Baratheon sacrificing his daughter for the victory and the Iron Throne, right? He won the Iron Throne for sacrificing his daughter. That's how that all panned out for him. But something else that came to mind, um, also in the same vein of sacrificing time with your child for the sake of humanity is Interstellar and Matthew
Mm.
McConaughey's mission and leaving and leaving knowing everything that was going to happen. Glad him and Murph finally got their reunion and that Fantastic Five baby is staying with his parents as well.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah, excellent.
True, true.
Leah, what about you?
Okay. So I was thinking a little bit about Star Trek,
Mm.
just in sort of broad needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and also because Johnny was so excited to go to space and explore, and I liked that sort of enthusiasm. Um, but primarily, there's a musical called Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim, and where do I want to start? I'll still let me start. Let me start with the second act, and then I'll back up. So the second act is a deconstructive existential crash out, basically, in which the fairy tale characters, the like recognizable fairy tale characters that are make up the plot of this show, are revisited by the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, and the giant is stomping through the land, destroying everything. And they finally get to talk to the giant. And as the giant's a woman, and she says, "Give me Jack, give me the boy." And
Mm.
they say, "No, we're not doing that." And proceed to debate for a good chunk of the musical whether or not they should give a boy to a giant in
Mm.
order to
Hmm.
save the world. And their ultimate solution is to lure the giant to a centralized location,
Hmm.
trap her there, blind her, and take her out. And that is what happens. And that is what happens in the Fantastic Four: the first steps. And then I start going, oh wow, this is even crazier because the first act of Into the Woods is about collecting these charged objects like Infinity
Hmm.
Stones.
Right.
And how interesting is that as a metaphor for the state of the MCU, in that
Hmm.
they've found the happy ending. Like Into the Woods ends with the first act of Into the Woods ends with a song called Ever After because it's the traditional happy ending. If you were to perform this musical in schools, in like high school or middle school, you're not allowed to do the second act. You only do the first act. You end with the happy ending. So
Hmm.
it's the second act is kind of the definitive work of what happens after Ever After. And what a fitting thing for this movie in this
Mm.
franchise at this time to maybe unintentionally rip off, but I don't know, man. The themes of Thunderbolts are also No One Is Alone. That's a big theme in the musical.
Hmm.
Agatha All Along is very Into the Woods inspired.
Yep.
I think Feige screened it at a retreat. I think they had a little sing-along night.
I
Yeah.
love the idea that the underpinning of all MCU properties, like in the writer's room, it's like it's in there. He's constantly, remember, everybody,
Yeah.
when all else fails, you don't know where to turn. Come back to the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone find me a Feige drama kid recording, Like,
Listen.
was he? I hope so.
This is tremendous. I love this deeply theatrical connection. Um, and I was also thinking of Grimm. I've been reading my
Mm.
daughter Grimm's fairy tales very recently, and so like it's chock full of babies that have to be
Ben
given
Grimm,
up.
am I right?
Rumpelstiltskin, the Enchantress and Rapunzel. Everybody wants a baby, and all these young parents are just like, too, whatever. The baby's a future problem. Sure, you can have it. That's who even knows if it'll. Everybody wants a baby in these stories. So I couldn't help but think of just like classic fairy tales as I was watching this. Um, but there was more than that. I can't believe I thought I was like, this was the low hanging fruit. I didn't think I'd get to talk about The Incredibles. I absolutely adore The Incredibles. And so I couldn't help but have them top of mind throughout this. Like, of course, The Incredibles are sort of aping Fantastic Four, but this coming later now with this retro
Hmm.
futuristic aesthetic feels a lot like the Fantastic Four, just trying to
The
do The Incredibles.
montages
The
too.
montages, the
Hmm.
baby without powers that
Yeah.
actually is the most powerful. So yeah, The Incredibles were all up in
Yeah.
this, and that's a huge compliment. I hope this franchise
Yeah.
continues to give us that vibe.
I mean, way more people in the audience are calling back to The Incredibles than the Fantastic Four. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, I think so. And then lastly, this is a very vague connection, but I hope you'll allow it. Star Wars. There are many a great jacket in Star Wars, none better than the jacket game on Han Solo. Johnny Storm has an unbelievable jacket game. Who is tailoring the jackets for this gentleman? I so sharp, so perfectly like just at the waist. He had one that from behind had like a little like belt at the lower back, at the small of his back that helped to tuck it in just a touch. Absolutely tremendous. Jacket game really strong. It was giving me Han Solo vibes.
I mean, that's a great observation, Chris, but I'm a one jacket guy, and my heart still belongs to Ryan Gosling's Blade Runner 2049 jacket.
Can't believe you said that and not Drive. I thought you were going to say Drive.
No, I'm a Blade Runner 2049 jacket guy.
He's really a jacket because like Barbie's got some good ones too.
I was to say yeah, I mean, he does he wear anything badly?
Yeah.
I don't know that Ryan
Uh,
Gosling does.
my one successful tweet of all time showed up in a Times Magazine article about Ryan Gosling's jackets. So there you go.
It was always meant to be.
Well, speaking of jackets, speaking of the production design uh, in this film, whether we're talking about the costumes, the sets, some of the filmmaking choices they made throughout, again, none of us have gone too deep into our final assessment of the film yet, which I think is great. But again, whether you loved or hated Fantastic Four, it would be hard to deny that it has pretty incredible production design. This is a great looking movie, and I wanted to give everybody a chance to shout out their favorite production design detail. And Shruti, I'm going straight to you. What was your favorite detail here?
Um, Can you circle back to me?
I would be honored to do so. Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Kris, I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Yeah, happy to jump in here because there was one thing that stood out to me amidst all like the I think we chatted about this shortly after I saw the film, Randy, off pod. The balance that they struck with like what they would make feel futuristic and what they would keep really grounded in the aesthetic of the times that we're more familiar with. I was so impressed
Mhm.
by that. And I'm curious about who made those little individual choices. But there was a moment where they've established the final plan and they're outside taking Franklin for a walk, and the pram is
Mhm.
just a pram. It's the most classic, like when you picture an iconic baby carriage, Peter Pan rolling away from his mom in the pram, it's this. And I love that choice because it's a Fantastic Four item. It belongs to the Richards family. There's every reason to be like super futuristic. If anything on the screen is going to have some sort of gizmos built in, you would think it would be um, anything that belongs to them. I really like the idea that despite like Reed's need to prep and to tinker and to build like the ultimate baby monitor, that maybe Sue was more like, no, we're gonna do this like the normal way. Like we're gonna have a baby and we're gonna experience the baby like
Mhm.
humans. So I really like the choice of that really classic pram there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Leah, do you have a favorite production design detail?
The couple. I think I'm going to go with a shout out to my friend for this is her favorite part of the movie. Herbie's little foam
Mm.
thing in the ship
In
where
the
he
ship.
goes, his little foam bed.
That was beautiful.
He looks so cozy too. He looks so happy to tuck himself in there.
And he's like, I'm not helping, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
clocked out.
Perfect. I'm gonna go with something that's like a little less specific to one moment. This is both, this ties back to both like my one of my favorite and least favorite moments in the film because I loved the production design on all of this the sort of like vintage pre-flight recordings when we've got that sort of like newsreel special. Everyone's in their spacesuits. You've got that really charming moment where Reed and Sue, kiss by touching helmets and all that stuff sitting around the table like palling around, the camaraderie, best pilot, best looking maybe, with a little bit of that graininess to them. You've got Mark Gaddis, dolled up to do his like, mid-century talk show host thing. I loved all that, especially that footage. That was also the biggest bummer in the movie for me because I hated how they spliced that with like these very cinematic shots of these battles in progress that did not seem to fit the aesthetic of this presentation. And it took me out of the beautiful production design a little bit. I wish they had doubled down on that set. Maybe it's that I just recently watched Superman. I was watching Rachel Brosnahan. I was in a Miss Maisel frame of mind, thinking about how much more successfully they worked with that set in their final season. But yeah, the parts they got right there were so good that I'm willing to forgive those cutaways to the the stuff that didn't fit as well. Shruti, how about for you?
I okay, so I don't have a specific production design thing to point out, but I would love to use this moment to ask a VFX question, because you just inspired me. That was that a real baby or was that a CGI baby?
CGI Baby was killing me. I think maybe
It was giving
sometimes
Renesmee. Like
it was uncanny valley, especially when there were a few
Hmm.
moments where they chose to have Thing holding
Yeah.
the baby. So we have
Holding him in a
mm,
CGI
weird
Thing.
way.
Yes, and they together they looked awful. That was
Hmm.
disappointing. I think it took me out a few times. I don't know how you felt about it.
I feel like especially after CGI Crypto feeling pretty good to me, I'm like, oh God, this is whack.
Hmm.
This is Renesmee.
Yeah, there were moments the baby was cute enough, but yeah, definitely some like Ally McBeal dancing baby vibes at
Oh my
times.
God. Wow.
I'm really
Uh,
going to show my 40 years of age here tonight.
I was gonna try to send the kids at home to the internet to find that. I'm not certain they could. I don't know what to tell them.
You could, because that's like one of the earlier memes.
Probably, yes. Maybe I'm being a little
Yeah.
hyperbolic. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there was ever a practical baby. There were a few times where I couldn't quite tell, and they were either doing a better job or they did have at least one baby cast as Frank, or a handful of babies for one scene or two as Franklin. Um, I got one more I want to smuggle in real quick before we move
Please.
on because
I
I
have a
was
smuggle as well.
I was genuinely scared in the theater when Galactus leaned forward in the ship. He was so big, and those
Mm,
eyes clapped on. The choice to alternate between the completely glowing sort of Batman style eye sockets, right? Just
hmm
beams of light, to the very personal purple, more human eyes. That coupled with um, the live performer inside the helmet, right? So we didn't have like a full CGI rendering of the face and everything. That was a practical costume. A lot of great choices happening there, but the eye specifically for me, switching between the bright white to that more intimate, lifelike
Yeah.
purple iris was crazy.
If we're talking VHX, Jesus, VFX, I really like the hyperspace effect.
Mm.
Mm.
That's a risky move to design a hyperspace that looks, not quite like other things we've seen in Star Wars primarily. But I think it did a good job.
Yeah,
And I like how
absolutely.
it was squiggly and it kind of similar to Sue's powers, squiggly.
Yeah, a little iridescent.
Hmm.
It broke all the rules that I thought I knew about um, that type of travel. The idea that Silver Surfer was able to be in and out and kind of keep up with them. I was like, I've seen some Star Wars. I thought pursuing people in hyperspace was real tricky.
Well,
But
if a hungry space god imbues you with powers, you can keep up.
yeah, the power cosmic that is. And I suppose now that we've mentioned her, I can't move on from production design until I do talk about some of the actual surfing she was doing, some of the cosmic surfing, and all the iterations of this character. The idea that like she was riding cosmic waves in a way that felt so authentic to the actual act of surfing. It made great use of the board, which isn't a part of the body, by the way. Okay, now I'm ready to move on from production stuff. Let's talk about the performers inside the costumes. Um, Leah, I want to go to you first
Okay.
here. Tell me, who gives the best performance for your dollar?
I I kind of think it was Joseph Quinn. I He really surprised me. I'm going to be shallow. I'll get this out of the way quickly. I really hated his hair in this movie. I think it was holding him back
Hmm.
so much. It was kind of like
Freddie
it,
Prinze
he, it was
Jr. and Scooby-Doo.
it was like when you get a haircut, you just got a haircut, and you're like, oh, it's gonna look great in 3 weeks, and it just doesn't look good right now. Um, but I was very hesitant about him. I didn't like the casting. I didn't think it was the vibe that I wanted for that kind of character. I wanted someone a little bit more excitable, and I really like what he brought to it. I liked he was doing a lot of subtle stuff, giving Herbie little scritches, calling him Herbert, saying things off camera, and his arc was my favorite. His
hmm
like teaching himself a language, doing something, being smart, solving problems on screen, those things that I liked about Iron Man. And then the fact that nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. It was like great tension. Nobody in his family gives a shit that he taught himself a language. And they're so quick to dismiss him because he's like baby brother, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't get to shout out all the great like retro advertising.
Oh, the
But
sunscreen, so
the
good.
yeah, but like the ease
Yeah.
with which he held those retro Lucky Charms spoiling his dinner really helped set that pesky little brother energy for him to
Yeah.
overcome as the movie went forward.
I feel like everyone in this movie was a little low energy. That's one of my
Mhm.
biggest critiques. Um, but he was doing something at least.
Yeah, I think I think in general the film, despite being big and cosmic, feels a little like intimate and a little
Yeah.
bit like kind of quiet at times, a
Hmm.
little
Mhm.
low energy. Shruti, what about you?
Yeah, I honestly have the same answer. I love Eddie Munson. That's a Stranger Things character name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt like he made me laugh the most, definitely made me the most emotional as well. And I don't know what it was. Like, I'm a huge Pedro fan and I'm a huge Vanessa Kirby fan. And so I think maybe I just had higher expectations for them. And so it was harder for me to be like, yeah, they're delivering on that. Whereas like I'm always gonna be um happy and satisfied with everything Joseph Quinn has been doing from Quiet Place to even his Mad King role in Gladiator 2. I feel like he's been consistently delivering.
Yeah, can't disagree with you. I think he was really wonderful in this. Leah, you said it well too. Subtlety, right? A lot of subtlety in this performance, and the character would have been so easy to lean into some really clean like tropes, easy
Hmm.
bad boy, black sheep, younger brother, hothead tropes, and he avoided all of that. Randy, what about you?
Well, this might speak a little bit to my Fantastic Four sort of ignorance. Um, but Pedro Pascal really did work for me. I'm not suggesting that this is the performance of his career or anything. There are certainly other performances that easily rank ahead of this one. But not knowing much about the character, just having this vague sense that um, Mr. Fantastic knows everything, can do anything. He's this super genius. I was a little bit worried about that becoming boring in some way. Um, like he's just going to be too perfect. And to see Pedro, who I've often seen as a very competent character, uh, be able to show just like how crippling his anxiety is, this
Mm,
like this constantly nagging fear that controls him. It made him feel really vulnerable, even if he could just teleport an entire planet on a whim. Now, if this were the only Fantastic Four we'd ever get, I'd be a little bit disappointed with that. But I love the potential of where we could go. One pop culture reference I almost mentioned earlier was, believe it or not, going to be the Muppets. And I mean that on an emotional level because the Muppets have this innocence to them, and the Fantastic Four are so innocent.
mm.
Sue can stand up at one conference and get almost, there were some glaringly empty seats, but almost the entire world to disarm their militaries when they inevitably clash with some of these other worlds. They're going to need to grow. I don't think Reed Richards is being the best husband to Sue Storm in this movie. I see room for there to be a rift, for there to be some challenges, for him to have to go through some emotional growth. So if they do something with that, it's not just a quirk. I think that could be a really satisfying character arc.
Well, and as I've sort of said earlier, they're in a world that listens to them.
Hmm.
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 And if we
Yeah.
know anything about the MCU, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
smart you are, how much of a Boy Scout you are, people are not gonna listen to you.
Exactly. And I love that sort of Muppet vibe. Like one of my favorite things to shout out Chris knows is Flight of the Conchords.
Oh yeah.
Just you take any wildly innocent characters and put them in a rougher world, and I love to watch that go. So
Oh,
maybe I was piling on a little bit of potential greatness, but yeah, I liked Pedro in the role. Yeah.
he had some of my favorite performance moments. I think he was just not my favorite overall.
Yeah.
The scene where he's talking to Franklin and he
Mm.
says, um, he's saying like, I'm gonna let you tell me who you are. If
Mm,
you wanted to tell
yes.
me that you were a god right now, that would be really helpful. That was sort
Yes.
of that was like, there's my guy. That
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's the Reed Richards I was looking for.
Yes.
And because I mean I was worried about him too because I was such an asshole about John Krasinski not looking
Hmm.
smart. I had to go through that with him. Does he like I've seen Pedro Pascal do Shakespeare twice. Like I know
Yep.
he's an intelligent human being,
Hmm.
but there's like an aloofness that he does not necessarily have. And
Hmm.
I think Randy, you just explained what I did like about it. It's he replaced the aloofness with anxiety. That's what
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
really
when he
well
gives the
said.
worst press conference imaginable in that
Right.
He's
moment,
like, yeah.
and
Yeah.
he just walks away.
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Oh,
really.
what a great montage you could make of Marvel heroes at press conferences fucking up. Starting with Tony Stark.
He did such a great job, I thought, of showing the sort of battle inside this man because
Hmm.
I think probably a function of the family that's around him. he has developed, I would imagine, a sense of empathy, like these he's probably become more in touch with his feelings than his big brain has him being naturally. And I think he performed that really well. You could see how quickly his brain could turn off the feelings. His brain doesn't turn off the ego. The intelligence doesn't override his ego, but the intelligence
Yep.
does override his feelings, his emotions very quickly. It's like right there in the baby news scene. He goes from like processing to shocked, and he's happy and it's kind of cute and human, to like, like running the numbers so fast. His brain just immediately shifts. And I thought that Pedro managed that balance pretty well. There's only one moment that I thought was tonally off, and I think it's more of a writing issue. And I imagine he performed it to the best of his ability, because I don't think it was jarring. But there's the moment where like they're talking about the baby monitor. It's him and Sue, and she like goes invisible and shows the baby
Mm.
inside her belly, and he ends that with, "That's a bullshit way to end it, to win an argument." He leans in for a kiss. And it's a
That was
cute
weird.
moment. It was weird. It just didn't fit this character. It wasn't like a bad line for a different character. Um, but I'm not certain that it felt right in that moment. So maybe it's the one misstep, but I think it's perhaps more the writing than any failure of his performance in that
Yeah, it
moment.
didn't really prove anything was not wrong with the baby. It's like, okay,
Right.
cool. Still need to do my test though.
Right. It looked really cool though. Um,
Sure, sure.
I think this will be, I'm going to get into Vanessa Kirby a little bit later. Unlike you, Shruti, I don't know Vanessa Kirby very well. Um,
Hmm.
I may not have seen her in anything. This is where I exposed myself to Torches and Pitchforks, not a Mission Impossible franchise person. I've just never seen her in stuff. And so I didn't know what to expect. And I was really impressed, but I'll get into kind of why as
Hmm.
we have some other prompts ahead. Here's where I want to celebrate my guy, Richie from The Bear. Evan Moss
Hmm.
Backrack was wonderful as
It's
Thing, and
like
he
Guy Ritchie.
who I refer to as my guy Richie so affectionately. He's
Yep,
just for
yep.
me. Um, he was under a pile of CGI the whole time, and he was truly expressive, like, truly emotive. There was something in the way he carried himself when we had those scenes of him walking through the neighborhood, interacting with the kids, interacting with little known performer Natasha Lyonne. Um, you know, these folks didn't get to interact with the greater world very often. As I said, this was a pretty intimate movie, but he managed to have a unique dynamic with each individual member of the family. The way he is with Johnny is different than the way he is with Sue, which is different than the way he is with Reed. And none of those things seem fake or inauthentic. They're all these wonderful facets of a pretty well realized and fleshed out character performance by Evan Moss Backrack. So really impressed. Not easy to pull off any level of emotion when you know that nobody's really going to see your face, right? I can't imagine what it takes to stay in the performance, knowing that like little twitches of the eye and smirks might get lost in the
Yeah,
CGI of it all.
absolutely. Well, those were some of our favorite performances. Now, we did talk about the energy of this film being a little bit low. I don't think it was packed full of gags like maybe some Marvel movies have been in the past. That being said, I was wondering what some of your favorite humorous moments were. If you feel like you're having trouble finding a genuine humorous moment, just sort of like any moment of fun will do. But what were some of those moments that had the Marvel energy that we love to see? Let's see. Leah, let's go to you first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this movie twice. The first time I saw it was at the second New York press screening. They added a second one in the day. And it was a people were just not laughing.
Hmm.
And then it didn't get terrible reviews. And so I think it's just because the it was not like that kind of Marvel humor that people make fun of, that I don't
Yeah.
think is as terrible and or Marvel's fault as it
Hmm.
is. It was like not that the regular joke setup was not there. However, plenty of fun
Oh
little
yeah.
moments, and I loved in the beginning of the movie when Reed is doing his little Mr. Wizard show
Yes.
and he is explaining the multiverse, and then he just sighs and turns to the camera and says, "Do you guys just want to see a big explosion?" Because that's how you do a meta joke about how no, but nothing's been good since Endgame, Deadpool. That's a good joke.
Do- you know, kudos, snaps to
It's
absolutely
so
brilliant point.
well, perfectly
That's
executed.
no, it's also realistic. Back in high school, I took AP chemistry. I was the dumbest
Okay.
person in the
Brag.
class.
Love.
Uh, yeah, I did not do incredibly well. But after the AP test, my very small AP class, there were only 8 people in this class. We went to the local elementary schools and did science shows for like the last month of school. And I did like the liquid nitrogen presentation, but you have to have the explosion built in.
You
I
have
sent my
to.
kids to camp a few weeks ago. It was science week. And guess what? Dad, we saw an explosion today was the first thing I heard.
Yep.
So that was simply accurate.
They didn't want to learn about the multiverse. And then he does a similar thing when they're on the ship and Johnny and Ben are giving him a hard time. And he's like, okay, if it's just a guy in a ship, you can punch him.
Yeah.
Another great
Yeah.
metaphor for the MCU in a movie that otherwise unconnected to the MCU.
Brilliant.
Let's see. Shruti, what was a favorite gag for you or another favorite fun moment in the film?
It really ties back to what Kris was saying of our guy Richie, bit within the cooking, like really embracing his genuine Richie tendencies. And I loved his like running gag on like how knowing to cook is like more important in smarts than like any of their fellow um reader Johnny. And so yeah, it was just really fun. And I was he made me smile throughout the movie.
Beautiful. Chris, how about for you? Favorite gag, favorite humorous moment?
Okay, so you relieved me. I was afraid I was going to have to go back to the thing. Well, I'm glad Shruti did. I do want to highlight the moment where Johnny has just confessed like his whole Silver Surfer thing. And yeah, I know it's like me. Johnny falls in love and then he hits him with a Ben likes when Johnny refers to himself in the third person. He absolutely
Yes.
crushed that
Yes.
moment. That got a good one out of me. But I think in terms of like larger set pieces, the baby car seat gag was pretty fun and funny, but Mole Man, I felt stole the show again for as few sort of like other characters that were in this movie. When he was on screen, he was shining really brightly. I loved his relationship with Sue was well realized and added a comedic layer because he wasn't just obnoxious all the time. There was like a human underneath, which let you know that he was doing the other stuff on purpose. Wipe your feet. I'm just kidding. It's all dirt. It was great.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, Chris. Now, like, I'm a little bit torn on this one. Um, the car seat gag is almost perfect. I don't know if I'm just dumb, but I was like super confused about what was happening at that point in the movie. Like, was there an emergency? Did they just decide they didn't feel like doing the talk show? But why
I
were
think
they installing the car seat as they were leaving the talk show
because
in a
they're
hurry?
competent. They've got time. Because
That
they're so good at saving the world. They can pause for a minute to figure out that. I don't know.
But
yeah,
why the car seat wasn't already in the car from the trip to the
Well,
right.
TV
they
studio?
probably took him in.
They clipped it out. You're right. Yep. And back into the base. They had to clip it back in.
Well,
Yeah.
well, so this is the thing. Chris is going to know what I'm talking about. When the baby is that age, that there's a permanent base that you
Right.
keep in the car, and the seats, at least in our world, they are designed to slide pretty naturally right into that base and slide pretty naturally out. They seem to have guide lights, yet they're actually attaching the seat belt like physically to the seat. Um, like that is something that sometimes people will go literally to like the local fire station to have like someone install the seat for
Hmm.
proper safety. So that all took me out of it, but I also loved seeing them being goofy uncles, and I decided to let them have that one. Because it was maybe a reflection of Reed refusing to like see the small problems in front of him. He's so focused on the big picture that maybe he can build this perfect radiation proof baby seat, but he's not practically thought about how he's actually going to transport the baby anywhere. So I kind of let them
Right.
have it on those grounds. But my runner up, just I kept taking shots at the citizens of Earth 828, just being really naive and stupid. So I was like really just getting a kick out of them at that bad press conference when they're like, "Wait, what?
Follow-up question,
Huh?"
why?
uh, you just had to give up the bit, like just the shock. Like it was very much like I did not think I was going to make this reference tonight, but Wreck-It Ralph, like all like the little people who praise Fix-It Felix and the little house, and they throw parties for him all the time. And when something goes wrong, like they can't process it. So there's just something about the naivete of the citizens that I got a kick out of at times.
That's great. Yeah, they weren't thinking too deeply. Very, very surface level, experiencing what was just right in front of them.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you know what, we'll get to this in a minute. Carry on, Chris.
okay, fair enough. Well, we've done humor now. It wouldn't be media lit if we didn't get a little deep into the feels, though. And I think this film had plenty of moments for the feels. So I want to talk about our favorite emotional moment from the film. Randy, I'm going to go right back to you on this one. What have you got?
Yeah, so you alluded to mine already, Chris. Even though I'm not 100% sold on the CGI for Ben Grimm for the thing, um, despite not being fully sold on it, yeah, all those wistful walks through the old neighborhood really landed with me when he's staring into a screen, imagining the man that he used to be. On some level, he's really owned this form that he is now living in, but you know, he has questions and regrets about it. You know, as much as Natasha Lyonne felt a bit shoehorned into this film, when he is like facing the end of the world and looking for that person whose smile he wants to see when he steps in, and he's not looking for spiritual guidance. He just wants to see her. That did kind of work for me as like a payoff of that little quiet background story. Um, and listen, whether you love it or not, if you've got an actor who can't really emote behind the CGI, you know, put Natasha Lyonne on screen. She can emote for everyone. She's been emoting ever since she played the babysitter in Dennis the Menace, which is my favorite Natasha Lyonne role.
I'm going to go with American Pie 2, but great pull. Really great pull. Love that. Okay, excellent. Shruti, what about you? Anything tugging on the feels for you?
I mean, yeah, I gotta go back to my boy Johnny. I feel
Mm,
like I was really like moved when he said to take him instead of the baby, and that like
mm.
was sacrificing himself, and then again in the end when he actively tries to sacrifice himself before Julia Gardner saves us from having to reboot the Fantastic Four again. And so I was for a second like with Johnny not so much, but then with the Vanessa Kirby death fake, I was like, wait, are they really gonna kill her? But no, we've got a life-saving baby. But it was family stuff always really works for me, and so an uncle sacrificing himself for his little baby nephew was very sweet.
Great call. He was wonderful in both of
Yeah.
those moments. Yeah.
They did let that Sue Storm moment linger for a bit. I had enough time to consciously, like at one point, I shifted all of my attention to the baby's hands because I was waiting to see like what color of like glowing CGI was going to pop out.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, but it did wonder there for a moment. Is that how they're going to pull the rug out from under this perfect world?
I I
I'm glad they didn't do it that way.
for a moment I thought they might be crazy and brave enough to give us like the Fantastic Four that appeared in the Thunderbolts, just a different Fantastic Four. That we were going to see like
Yeah.
his family get destroyed
Yeah,
in
and
some
I
way.
mean, you could argue that they were still the Fantastic Four at the end if she had passed away.
Whoa, whoa.
Ooh.
All right. Well,
Too dark.
Leah, on to you.
Yeah, I cycled through so many potentials in that final sequence of like trying to connect it to that ship and Thunderbolts. Like, oh, they're gonna be looking for Johnny. Oh, Sue's dead. They gotta find. Oh, they left the world. Like so many different brain spinning. Thank goodness that it was relatively simple because then I could focus. But
Hmm.
most emotional moment for me when Sue turns invisible at the moment she gives birth.
Mm,
Mm.
They don't discuss it, but like we just gave me chills. That was
mm,
so interesting and like a completely silent. It was all on their faces and just like really good. And that, I don't know,
Yeah, I
little
agree.
little chills in a sequence that was b bothering me a little bit because I did not come to this movie to hear that much grunting and screaming. And the ship was chaotic and I didn't like it. And then it got very serious. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, this is interesting. This is unexpected.
Yeah, I thought that I was really moved by that moment. I think I hinted earlier that Vanessa Kirby was a really strong performer for me in this. I think she carried the film on behalf of the Fantastic Four in a lot of ways. Like she was the
Yeah,
leader of
definitely.
this team.
Yeah.
She was the heart of this movie. So um,
Heroes with heart.
here, that's
Hmm.
you know my brand, buddy. Um, is it my turn? We did everybody right? Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So
yes.
um, I already told Randy this, but to reveal to you too, I cried so early in the movie, like so almost immediately in the film that I was inspired to keep a cry tracker after that. I was like, how's this gonna go? I'm a weepy guy, but like the film opens with a ton of charm.
Yeah.
Reed's just pulling up his pants. He's just like finishing getting dressed as the movie opens. I was like, oh my gosh, we're living with this family. I'm like so here for this. And then
Hmm.
that baby news scene was so real. Um, they'd given up 2 years, we hadn't even talking about it. This is better. Um, I was in that moment with them and I was crying. And so I end up with 9 cries throughout the movie. Only one really stands out, but like I was crying at the baby news, crying again when they shared the baby news at dinner because the brothers were so beautiful in that
Hmm.
moment. Ben is just the best guy, like the most intuitive. Like he loves Sue so much. He knows she's pregnant the moment she sits down and they're being weird, beautiful. When you see the baby's hand during the birth scene, that was when I broke. Up to that point, the birth scene was like weird. It was like, to your point, like a lot of chaos, and we're in zero
Hmm.
gravity, and there's a lot of grunting and stuff. But like the actual like moment of like the birth was beautiful. Got me. Um, when Sue and
Her
Reed
just like
fought,
kicking her pants off. I did not like that angle at all.
yeah, yeah, yes, I
Had to
Yes.
agree.
say that.
No, I agree because like she did that, and then very
Practical, but
immediately
I get it. But
so practical. Ben in the room. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, the pants float off, and then immediately Ben, who's coming in to support, like he's in this role here. He comes floating right at her from the opposite
Right,
angle. And
right.
I was like, oh, it's okay. I mean, it's the reality of the situation. Um, anywho, I mostly they were happy cries throughout the movie. In summary, there was one that like it was a happy cry, but also like a heavy cry. It was muddled because when Sue steps forward to push Galactus back through that portal, she's like, it's like another whole birth sequence, right? Like she's so powerful in like a very specific, like divinely feminine way. She's taking these big, deep, controlled breaths, and she's just like pushing
Yep.
this massive cosmic power back. She's planted, like rooted in the ground. And Vanessa Kirby's giving us everything in that moment with every breath and every push. You can feel how desperately she needs this to work. There's absolutely nothing that's going to stop her in that moment. Like
Hmm.
that power that's inside of her is so much deeper and more real and connected to all that is cosmic than any like big Thor biceps and thing raising cars off the ground. Um, so yeah, her 2 feet in the ground, her two hands in front of her, just breathing as she pushed for the sake of her son, pushed herself to death. I was a mess. So like
Yeah.
a couple of little cries after that, but that was like the culmination of this film for me and the heart of this family living inside of the Invisible Woman.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that they were trying to make this movie so personal.
Mm.
I'm reluctant to say too much, having never given birth. But yeah, there were times where I felt like they were playing that perfectly, and times where it felt like maybe we were falling into some tropes about motherhood that were a little bit limiting. But like I love the way that Leah brought up that moment of like going invisible in this moment of pure vulnerability and everything. So there's some potential there. And Vanessa Kirby, I do think made the most of every one of those moments and made them all work as well as they could have for sure. Um, but before we move on from our emotional moment, well, not before, we are now going to move on from merely our emotional moments, although we might talk about a few more in this next segment. Um, I thought really hard about whether or not I wanted to ask like the standard podcast question about like how's the MCU doing now? Because it's kind of a dumb question. You know, just go to the movie, try to enjoy the movie. If you don't love the movie, it's okay. That being said, we've got two dueling franchises that both had some really big, important releases this month with a lot of high expectations attached to them. We got Superman from James Gunn earlier this month, and now the Fantastic Four launching a new phase of the MCU. So my question to all of you is, if you had to pick one, who won July 2025? Was it Superman or the Fantastic Four for you? Um, Let's see. I'm going to hold back on Kris because I'm not sure if there is any podcaster in the world who has podcasted more hours on the Superman movie than one Kris Ingersoll. Uh, Shruti, I'm going to kick it to you first because I know if nothing else, we were both excited to see Rachel Brosnahan on screen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Listen, I had never seen a Superman as well, so these are both two things that I was going into completely cold and two things that I was feeling like the rumblings of throughout the interwebs that like, no, this is gonna be good, this is gonna be a return to form, whatever. I genuinely love Superman and I'm excited to go back. I think Superman has got a lot of people to return to the theaters in a way that I don't think Fantastic Four will. I was not clamoring to see this movie again after finishing it. And I think there's just Superman is more of like felt more of like an experience. And I think I mean, box office isn't anything, but just from like the drop off that Superman had between Thursday, Friday box office between the and the actual rest of the weekend, and Fantastic Four is indicative. Fantastic Four's drop off is like bigger than Superman's, bigger than I think Thunderbolts is as well, and so I think next weekend will not be as successful as Superman's was, and people are gonna read into that as something being way more dramatic than it needs to be. I think Superman also came out first, and so now it kind of got that boon, and I'm gonna go back to see it, so it's getting that second boon as well.
Yeah, perfect answer. Leah, how about for you? Who won July 2025? Superman or Fantastic Four?
All right, I have a complicated answer for this.
That's the only kind I love.
Yeah. So I think Superman wins, but I prefer Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
I think Superman is about something that's more prescient and specific, whereas Fantastic Four's themes are more evergreen. You know, like Superman is very much about the current state of international relations, and Fantastic Four is about everything changes when you have a baby. Both valid, both very valid things to make a movie about. But I think that's one of the reasons why Superman is hitting more with people. But I mean, I have nitpicks with both. I don't
Hmm.
really like James Gunn's whole deal. Um, I don't like his emotional payoff. I find it very manipulative.
Hmm.
A lot I was as much as this excited me about Superman in mostly performances and characters, there was a lot of like I got really grumpy about some stuff, and I spent the
Yeah.
next couple days going, and another thing about this, and another thing about this. But now I've sort of settled, and I'm like, yeah, that was a good movie. Whereas I had that stuff with Fantastic Four, but at a lower light. So
Hmm.
it got me fired up either way. It's more prescient. Superman does win, even though I've seen Fantastic Four twice and I have not gone back to see Superman. I don't know that I will. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really excited about Supergirl. Sorry.
That
And
looks like
I'm
such a blast,
and
I
I'm
have
more
to
ex I
say.
think I'm more excited about Supergirl than I am for this is so specific than I am for the Fantastic Four's role in Doomsday, I guess. I don't know.
Mm, no,
Thanks
that
for
makes
watching my
sense to me.
dog, bitch.
Yeah. The screenwriter of that movie, I saw a play that she did wrote a couple years ago, and it was so incredibly good. I'm so thrilled that Anna Noguera has like been given the keys to any kingdom. So I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a fun reveal at the end of Superman for sure, especially since I knew pretty much nothing about that character. So I didn't know that was a flavor we might get, which made it all the more fun to see it. I know, comics lovers were not as shocked as I was probably to see that version, but it was really cool. I'm gonna preface my answer by saying, like, if you like superhero movies, I think this was a pretty damn great month for everyone. I think the overall quality across these two movies was great. I am surprised to say that I'm going to give it to Superman because, um, existing in these podcast circles, loving to listen to the discourse and try to create my own sometimes. I've kind of assumed all year that I'd probably end up liking the Fantastic Four a little bit more than Superman because I had more skepticism about DC, less history with Superman than I have with the MCU. All these things. And the fact that they were able to pull out some comic book lore and a take on Superman that felt fresh to me was really exciting. Um, the fact that some of their biggest swings felt okay to me, like they fit the world of Superman that we got, was really huge. And yeah, I have not been back to see either movie again yet, but I'm much more actively planning to try to see Superman again than I am the Fantastic Four. Um, that being said, they both got me excited about the future potential. I think they both laid a groundwork that could really continue to pay off for the time to come. And if I needed a tiebreaker, which I don't think I need, to pick Superman, I mean, Rachel Brosnahan is going to move the needle for me
Hmm.
uh, in that direction. So, Superman for me. Kris, I don't know if this is going to be your last chance to pod about this Superman movie, but let's hear who won the month for you.
I doubt that it will be. I mean, we did, right? We won the month because it's tremendous. So I think that you are right, Randy, that anybody who loves this kind of content is really having a great time. Um, Outside of my own personal feelings, I think somewhat objectively, Superman is winning this month because he had more to prove than I think this Fantastic Four did. Certainly,
Hmm.
the MCU isn't swinging with the
Definitely.
kind of unassailable clout that they had around Infinity War and Endgame. But let's be honest, most people just assume DC movies are dog food,
Yeah.
right? Like you come in assuming it's going to be bad, and at best you walk out saying like, "Hey, that didn't suck." And so outside of all the direct hate that this film was garnering early on with like some of the first looks at David Corn Sweat or his casting in general, first looks of him in the suit with the trunks, right? There was so many reasons why this film had like a built-in hateration, a whole like just vitriol aimed at it that felt like it could hold it down no matter how great it was. And it overcame all of that in the purest, most authentic, hopeful, kind way. And so I think outside of my own personal feelings, I think in general, Superman, I mean, outside of the objective stuff like money, is probably winning the month because it did have so much more to do than the Fantastic Four. Like Shruti, Superman's the one I'm going to see next. Like if I'm going to rewatch anyone, if I'm excited to have it available to me at home to be able to just pop on and feel the feels with it, it's Superman. I can't wait to watch that movie again and watch Crypto's ears flop around. It was so good for movies, so good for superhero movies, so good for DC, and yeah, so good for all of us. So here's the Superman.
Beautiful answer.
I have a postscript.
Please hop in.
So I've been keeping a notes app of potential like Fantastic Four fan casts um since for the last 5 years. And
Hmm.
one of the ones that I felt very passionately about for Johnny Storm was Skylar Gisondo. So I am so happy that he's having a good
Hey,
July and has charmed the pants off of everybody. as
Leah, I
Jimmy
remember
Olsen.
you brought him up in our MCU
Yeah,
long-term bet on who will be
that
cast in
that's
MCU.
I love it.
that was how much I wanted that.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, he really had himself a time in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, folks, we're gonna move on to our extra credit section where we have some special categories. But this particular week, we have an extra special extra credit section. We mentioned at the top of the pod that we have got Shruti Marathe here from Chaos on the Set. Shruti mentioned that, Chaos on the Set has been a little bit dormant recently, but is gearing up for award season, and I'm looking forward to hearing those folks back on the mic again. But one segment I have always loved on Chaos on the Set is when Shruti will quiz her fellow podcasters about the final film credits and whose agent was able to negotiate the best contract. Shruti, can you take us into your little game here?
Yes, so a lot of times when you're seeing the credit order of any movie that's highly politicized and negotiated, who goes first, who goes second, who goes third, and then near the end, you'll often see a credit that says with a certain actor or and a certain actor. For example, at the end of Black Panther, it says with Angela Bassett, with Forest Whitaker, and Andy Serkis. So those are just actors who got to get a little bit more. Commendation for their role in the movie. Usually it's actors that are of higher status, and a lot of times it's how you negotiate an actor of higher status to be in your film. So it's really fun after you watch a movie to, with that added context, figure out who will get the with and credit. We can do this in a variety of ways. I can have you guys just guess, or I can tell you how many of each credit there are if you want like a certain number of slots.
Ooh, I think I would like to know the number. That might add
Yeah,
variety to
I
the
want the
Okay.
slots. I
guesses.
want the dance slots.
Oof.
Okay, there are two with credits and one and credit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I came prepared. I got three names ready to rock.
Chris, you wanna go first?
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll jump right in. Okay, so based on star power, I'm assuming that Natasha Lyonne has a with credit here. Um, yeah, she's just got a ton going on right now. Poker Face is great. I'm gonna put my money on Natasha Lyonne. And then Paul Walter Hauser is my pick for another with credit. I assume that there was maybe something more for the Mole Man to do before this movie got chopped up. His performance was the one that I missed most amongst the peripheral characters who you could tell probably originally had more to do, who didn't get to do a lot. So I'm going to go with Paul Walter Hauser for the other with credit. And lastly, my and is Sarah Niles. That's my heart pick. I love her so much, and I just want for her that she was able to negotiate that credit, but I don't know that she necessarily has the star power for it.
Mm.
Really, I'm picking with the heart.
All right, good picks, good picks. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I'll go, and I'm going. This is sexism edition.
Nice.
I think
Mm-hmm.
with Mark Gatiss, with Paul Alterhauser, and Ralph Ineson.
Oh.
Mm,
All right.
sexism edition.
And I'm gonna mix the two. I'm gonna give a with Paul Walter Hauser. He's got such a weird career because he does like these
Yeah.
highly comedic roles and these highly dramatic roles. But I do think like overall, like the vibe he has within the industry seems to be a pretty respectful one. So I could see him getting there. Um, I'm gonna say maybe with Ralph Ineson because voicing Galactus is such a big role, and I don't know exactly where her clout is, but I feel like Natasha Lyonne could have a moment where she's stealing the and if for no other reason that than they bent over backwards just to get her into this movie. So that'll be my breakdown.
Y'all are all incredibly close.
Hmm.
Everyone got at least two, and Randy, I would
Nice.
give you three. It's just an order situation.
Oh
It
wow.
is with
Wow.
Natasha Lyonne, with Paul Hauser,
Oh,
and
okay.
Ralph Ineson.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Wow.
Props to Ralph Ineson. landing that and.
Yeah. I started to doubt myself. I thought Ralph Gaddis may have been like, there's no way I'm doing this Marvel movie without some sort of a better credit. Leah, you
Who
had me
got
scared with that.
who got the and in um Multiverse of Madness that was fun? Anybody remember?
I think the with was like
Or the
whoever
with?
was at the wedding. The friend
Yeah,
that's
oh,
at
it's
the wedding.
hang on.
Let's pull up the Disney Plus.
Yeah,
How
wasn't it Michael Stuhlbarg?
Yeah, I think so. I think I literally
Yes.
texted you. They're just giving out with credits
Yep.
to anyone these days.
Yep. People cheered. People cheered at my screening when he got
That's
that with. They
Nice.
were like,
wild.
"Yes."
Oh,
I was just
classic.
gonna say, like when I was prepping Kris for this, I was just trying to look back to like a recent movie. So I checked out Brave New World, and they really went crazy with the withs on that one. You've got with
Oh
Giancarlo
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Esposito,
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
Liv
yeah, yeah,
Tyler,
yeah, yeah.
with Tim Blake Nelson, and of course
Liv
Harrison Ford.
Tyler for showing up for quite literally 30 seconds. Like
30
And she
30 seconds take
deserves
your worth
seconds.
it.
credit.
Little voice work in 30 seconds on camera. That was super fun. Shruti, thank you so much for taking us through that. I'm proud of the performance of the panel here. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, next, we're going to turn to another shared fandom that we four all have a great love for. This extra credit superlative from Randy and I is the Lost Bardo Buddy Award. This is where we want to know which character would be most likely to show up in your Bardo. Leah, we're going to go to you first.
So is this like the person like
It's
who's in my life?
it's like who do you want it to be?
The way I would
Okay.
describe it,
Who would help
who,
you on your afterlife
Yeah.
journey?
yeah,
Oh
who
my
would
Yes.
be
gosh, so
part of your
true.
path toward waking up? It may not be like the person who's going to
Oh.
give you your wake up moment, but it's someone who's going to be in that world that you've constructed.
Well, my first thought was going to be Johnny because as I have mentioned on this podcast before, he is canonically a good singer. But that has little to do. Well, it might not. We don't know
Your
where
Bardo
my
could be full
Bardo is going to
musical.
be.
It could be a
My
full
Bardo could be
musical
a
Bardo.
musical. Yeah. So that if I that's my wishful thinking. More realistic would probably be Rachel. There we go.
Fair.
Beautiful.
Love that. Shruti, you ready to jump in?
I literally was like, who's Rachel? But I have the IMDb up.
Exactly.
So now I know it is
Rachel
potentially
Rosman, come
good.
on.
Listen, and also, can
The
I just
Rachel
say
Brosnan?
I was lied to. Someone told me a year ago that she was playing Alicia Masters, who is Ben Grimm's canonical, well, wife now. Um,
Oh,
yeah. Yes, she's blind. And she's blind. Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Does
So,
she know
liar.
that he doesn't look like a human?
I mean, she has other senses, so she's figured it out at
True.
some
That's
point.
fair.
Who played her? Was that
Carrie
Kerry
Washington.
Washington? Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
In some really progressive 2005 race bending casting.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Gets her
go.
hands up all in his rocky face. She doesn't mind.
There's some Fantastic Four properties I gotta catch up on. Um, my easy answer would be Reed Richards because I just want Pedro Pascal to be in my Bardo
Yeah.
because who
Mhm.
wouldn't? But if I'm being realistic and thinking about how Lost very often put characters in worlds adjacent to their lifetime, I feel like I'm just gonna be working on the Gilbert show, and so Mark Gaddis would be in my Bardo.
That's great. That is really, really great. Randy, what about you?
So I'm torn between two or three characters. I'm tempted to say Rachel Rosman as played by Natasha Lyonne, just because Natasha Lyonne is so Natasha Lyonne, but like I've enjoyed many of her performances over the years. She's in some properties that really get into some metaphysical questions that I love. She's a performer that my wife and I both enjoy watching on screen together, so that might help unlock something about what I cared about. But I'm gonna be a little more vulnerable and say Reed Richards. Not because I'm lusting after Pedro Pascal, despite the fact that, he's a very handsome man. But no, I think it was just um that vulnerability, that desperate clutching for control, I think is a fault of mine that I have to confront on a regular basis. So I think maybe mirroring the kind of habits that I could fall into. I may not be a super genius, but sometimes I want to be in control of the world more than I ever can be. So that might help me remember what I was working on. So yeah, we'll go with Reed Richards.
Beautiful. I love that for you. Um, I'm also going to go with Reed here. A huge part of it is because I simply want to hang out with Pedro Pascal. Um, but no, this is also my chance to get a takeoff that I haven't really talked about yet this conversation. I think I am not a flexible person in my life. I think that despite thinking that I'm easygoing, I'm like easygoing as long as I know the plan. And we mostly stick to the plan. So there's like maybe there's a metaphor in there where Mr. Fantastic could somehow help me realize that I need to be a little bit stretchier. Um, but specifically this Mr. Fantastic because he also refuses to stretch. He was fantastic in this movie, but there was hardly any stretching at all. And
No, they
as
seem scared.
they seemed scared, and I was afraid that was the case, and I was waiting for them to prove to me that no, they're not scared. They're just being selective, so then they can have the one big moment.
The
But then I
one big
watched,
Stretch Armstrong moment.
and it looked awful when they did it. And I knew they were scared even before I saw how bad that was. I knew they were scared when they need to swap out the stupid baby carrier. Like that's their plan. First of all, not great to like distract him and then swap the
Right.
baby carrier, like bait and switch. Reed runs in. Like he scrambles in like a dog to
Yeah.
stretch your arm, dude. Stand where you're standing and stretch your
Yeah.
damn arm. It's your whole thing. So I don't know. There's a metaphor in there somewhere where I'm
It
annoyed in the
looked
bardo and he helps me. He and I both learn to be more flexible.
it looked okay in those early montages that you didn't like because they didn't fit
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
vibe, Brandy. I think that's why because I also was like, well, this is a different style of filmmaking. This takes me out. But then I liked
Yeah.
what I was watching. Like the
Yeah,
powers
they
looked
were
good.
fun.
Yeah, from a distance. But they weren't giving us any moments of him like in his lab reaching for a thing too far away
No,
or erasing his
a
chalkboard with
couple.
just a
Not as
little.
many as the other three or two, really.
They were scared
No.
for sure. Anywho,
Yeah, I can see that being a big question. All right.
Because Comic-Con stretches too, and they just decided to not do it.
That's right.
So clearly someone at Big Marvel is scared of
mhm.
stretching.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go so big that he was going to like completely encase Galactus with his body.
Do it.
Like I thought there was going to be so like that they were
He
saving for
could.
that big moment, but
Uh, that big
I,
old piece of saltwater taffy. All right, we're gonna move on to our next section. Now we're running a little bit long, so I'm gonna mix up my approach to our "Do You Ship It" section a little bit. We do this a lot of different ways on the podcast. A lot of times I go sort of like relationship by relationship, but instead of doing that, I'm gonna throw some possibilities out at you, and I'm gonna ask everyone to pick the ship that they ship the hardest. Uh, Out of all of them. And if you want to smuggle in a ship that you're not loving, feel free to smuggle that in as well. And perhaps I missed a ship that's better than the ones on the list. So feel free to go rogue and give me a different ship. But we've got a version of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Is that working for us? We've got Ben Grimm and Rachel Rosman. Um, I imagine there's some comic relevance to this, but I was picking up some Ben Grimm and Sue Storm history that seemed potentially interesting. Certainly Johnny Storm and Shala Ball, who I assume will somehow recover from being banished with Galactus. And we got Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm. Say it. So I'm gonna go first to one Leah Marilla Thomas. Who do you ship in the Fantastic Four?
Who am I shipping the hardest? I'm gonna go traditional. I'm gonna go Reed and Sue. I can think of a better boyfriend for Johnny Storm. Um, I Wait, I have to say this. This is really, really important. Johnny Storm is the first character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to call someone sexy.
Ooh.
Oh.
I, because he mentions it in the ship. He's like,
Hmm.
"Stop making me kill sexy aliens" or something like that.
Yeah,
And
don't
I
tell me how to kill
and
sexy aliens.
my
Yeah.
little my I went wow 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 wow. Nobody says that, right? This is the Marvel. This is a buttoned up franchise. And I the next day I put on a podcast and opened up like all the transcripts, went one by one through 36 movies and
Normal.
control F. Yeah, normal behavior. I was multitasking and like searched for sexy, sex, hot, just
Hmm.
like anything. And there's like a couple of hots, lots of like pretty beautiful. No, the only other person who has said the word sexy is Pepper Potts in Iron Man 2 when she's telling Tony she doesn't want to kiss him because he pees in the suit and that's not sexy. But
Uh,
I'm not really shipping him in the Silver Surfer. Reed and Sue all the way until any of Sue's other suitors come along and try to mess with that.
Beautiful.
Namor.
There you
Or
go.
Doom.
Or
Doom to
Doom.
Doom Doom Doom.
Hey.
Doom. She is
Is
doomed
that
to doom once in a
a
while.
comics thing that happens?
Maybe. TBD.
Mm.
It's complicated relationship, but his like absence really was loud.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Shruti, how about for you? Who do you ship from the
I
Fantastic Four?
I feel like I would go Reed and Johnny. I
Nice.
loved their little like you're not making time for me lovers quarrel in the
Mm,
movie. And it felt true for all relationships, not just romantic ones, and I appreciated them giving light to that issue, especially when you're like you just make time for your baby and your wife. Like, where's the
mm.
time for me? I get it. I get it, dude.
Yeah, that little flirtation over the new spacesuits. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and that's how he shows he cares is through acts of service.
That's his love language. I love that.
Mm.
He's so grumpy too when he's like, I did the thing, and Johnny's like, what? And he's like, the spacesuits, the thing you asked me to do. It's nice.
Yeah,
That's
So good.
that's a great call out. Kris, how about for you? What's your ship?
I think I kind of hinted at this earlier, but part of me wants to say Ben and everyone. Ben
Hmm.
is this like emotionally available, really wonderful guy who's, um, he and Johnny need each other. And I think I can imagine that Sue has relied on Ben for emotional intelligence quite a bit over the course of her relationship with Reed Richards. But I'm not sure any of them individually really deserve my dear boy Ben. And so I'm going to stick with Ben and Rachel.
Hmm.
She looks at him with this very kind, open-hearted admiration, this like curiosity. There's a flirtation behind her smile with each time they connect with each other in those brief interactions. And so I want him so desperately to find somebody who just wants to walk the neighborhood with him, to
Yeah.
feel normal, to give him every ounce of the love and understanding that I feel like he pours out to others. So
Yeah.
don't know a lot about her yet, but I'm hoping Ben and Rachel can make it work.
Yeah. Kris, I'm getting that sensation you get when you're out at the restaurant and you want to order the same item as the person right before you on the list. Yeah, I really love what you said about Ben Grimm. I'm tempted to say Ben and Sue because he seems to be carrying a torch, and there seems to be room for something healthier there. At the same time, I really agree with what you had to say about that genuine smile. But whatever happens with ships, I do want to shout out what Leah had to say about the word sexy during the MCU.
They're all
Uh,
lovers.
because I should have brought this up back in the Superman versus Fantastic Four, but when I was chatting with Kris, one thing I said was Marvel should take notes on that Lois and Clark kiss, because that is one thing that Superman really kicked their ass with, and
100%.
they need to step up on that end of the spectrum. So hope you're taking notes. I don't know if that's in Figi's repertoire or not, but read up, man.
Yeah, it's so funny that Johnny has like a reputation when all of them are like flirtatious, loving adults in
Mhm.
their own ways. None of them are as closed off as the Marvel heroes that we love regardless.
Yeah, I need to see more of whatever was happening between Clark and Lois in that kitchen all over the
Listen,
MCU.
Hmm.
Okay. That was a blast, Randy.
interviews.
Nice pivot on the ships there. Time to talk props. For the podlings at home who don't know, this is something that Randy and I love to do week over week. He and I will spend the year populating our imaginary prop caves with a unique item from every property we talk about this year, be it a prop from a film or a still frame from an animated piece. Tonight we get to talk props, and we always welcome our guests to pick first. So, Shruti, you have a fantastic display somewhere in your home full of the most lavish and collectible movie things. What's one prop from this film that you would love to add to your collection?
I mean, if I can fit it, I would love to take the car.
Yeah.
Um, Especially since I believe they debuted at D20 or Comic-Con. I remember them having a fantastic car at some big fan event, and that being really exciting for me as somebody who doesn't follow Fantastic Four, but I'm like, that's cool to have a flying car, and it delivered in the movie. I was very excited to see it, and so I'd love to showcase that in my home and maybe drive it around.
Picking like a pro, Randy and I love to steal a vehicle when we can for our prop cave. There's certainly a garage type space involved. So well done. Leah.
I'm going to go a little bit more modest. I would like one of those lovely records that
Hmm.
Johnny used as his Rosetta
Mm.
Stone. I really liked the shine on those. It would look lovely on my wall. Yeah.
Do you already have any kind of record display? Are vinyls a part of your life?
No. Well, no, not really. I don't have space.
This is going to be the
I
standout.
have a cat who likes to DJ. So while we have a record player, we have records here, we can't ever play them because he will get up and start
Yeah.
doing this.
Hmm. A
Uh,
scritchy scratch.
I
Good for
love
the cat though.
that. I love that pick, Leah. That was on my list as well. And that was also on my list of things I almost shouted out for production design.
Yeah,
That was
me
such a
too.
cool way to differentiate the way information is stored in this world.
Mm.
So yeah, love that pick.
Randy, what's your lovely pick?
Well, Shruti made my life a little bit easier. I don't know if Leah or Shruti have ever had to hear me talk about our hypothetical prop caves, which are just a list of ideas in a Google Doc. But Kris and I have some pretty elaborate spreads at this point. So to remove the temptation of taking the Fantasticar is great. I need to show some restraint there anyway. I collected Hurley's Camaro earlier this year, so I'm doing fine in terms of cars. Um, I'm really there's one prop that like I almost have to take, but I think I might go in a different direction. I'm really tempted to take Reed Richards' chalkboard. I am a
Ooh,
teacher.
teacher.
It's pretty great. However, Kris, I'm doing it. I am exercising our once per season room grab, and I am grabbing the kitchen from the Baxter building
Wow. Okay, not the
for my
conversation
prop
pit.
cave. The design top to bottom of that space was incredible. It's great for entertaining. I've collected some kitchen props that will now have a home moving forward. I mean, my Jean-Luc Picard teapot is going to look great in there. It's a slightly different era, but it's going to fit. It's got its own sort of retro futurism going on. So that's it. My room is done for the year.
Dude, I can't believe this is where you did it. But then again, I I can because it is such a
Yeah.
beautiful space, so easy to imagine yourself living in it. Um, I'm genuinely impressed by the pick. I didn't see it coming. There's several months and many properties ahead. I wonder if we'll be revisiting this moment later in the year when you
I may
regret
regret it. Yeah.
a space you couldn't take. But I think for
I
now
could have had a
this is a
cool
great one.
chalkboard, but We'll see.
But imagine cleaning that.
Hmm.
That would take forever.
And you don't even have stretchy limbs.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fair.
I am impressed that you went with the kitchen. I think for me, the conversation pit would have been really, really tempting. It's so
Mm,
era
That was on my
specific.
list.
But yeah, love the kitchen. Well, you scared me a bit there as you were like hemming and hawing and considering a pivot or maybe going with the original. I thought you were going to take mine, but you didn't take mine. And I confirmed that this is a practical effect in the film.
nice.
It was created using both puppetry and remote control practical effects. Give
Yes.
me Herbie. Herbie, come live in my prop cave, please. We'll get you the little foam bunker. We'll get you a little nook. Come live with me, please, Herbie.
Yeah. At least at my local AMC, I saw a higher percentage of collectible popcorn buckets in people's hands. That Herbie model was a popular one.
He's very cute.
Much better than Megan 2.0 with the removable face.
Why'd they let her get taller? Isn't the whole thing that she's like I don't know. Anyways, well, that was fun.
Absolutely. Well, we did it, Chris. We, took something that we'd usually do as a media light. Uh, Wait, yeah. No, we got everyone a prop, right? I just
Yeah.
panicked for a second.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have
Propped
helped
up.
me. Yeah, I'm sure you would have stepped up and helped me if I had skipped anyone. But yeah, we did it as a full-length media lit on a really fun movie with two really great Marvel experts. So I'm so honored we got to do it. I'm so honored we got to provide just a little temporary like rental space for a bit from chaos on the set. That was a huge honor for me
Sure.
tonight. So Shruti, Leah, thank you both so much for being here.
Crossover.
Uh, yeah, it was an absolute honor and a pleasure. Uh, Kris, do you have anything you want to say to our guests?
Just the sincerest thank you. I've always enjoyed my potting experiences with you both. This was no exception to that rule. Thank you for coming back to join us. I really enjoyed this movie, but more so enjoyed talking about it with you both.
Love being here.
Okay.
We should have done some transatlantic accents or something.
Damn it. All right, back to the top. We'll just cut this and we'll do it again.
The
Uh
whole thing.
yeah, right. Well, thank you both for being with us. And thank you to the podlings at home who are going to give us a listen, maybe even a watch. I'm not sure if this one will land on YouTube or not. It's up to teacher Randy, but we shall see. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want to find more of it, please do not forget to follow the pod, subscribe on YouTube, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, throw us a rating if you so choose. It doesn't even have to be a good rating. Just tell us what you think. We would love to hear it. And if you want to keep up with the pod elsewhere, we are on all of the socials. Just hop into your favorite web browser, type in Media Lit Pod or Media Lit Podcast, and you're going to find us on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Twitter. Most importantly, check out the website. There's lots of goodies there, behind the scenes content, references to old episodes, prop cave stuff. You can find the links in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kris. And we really do want to hear from absolutely everyone, even if you are one of our haters. We really loved Superman, but one of our YouTube commenters was not a fan of our take.
None.
No. No, 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 no. In fact, Kris and Randy are through the roof praising the movie. Who are they? And who cares? The general consensus about the movie is that it was mediocre at best, a one-time watch filled with one-liners, idiocy of James Gunn. Yeah, it was a good time. But we just said online we really hope that the next one works better for you. So we'll take your criticisms.
Yeah. And don't forget to email us. If you really want to hash it out with those criticisms, you want to have a little back and forth, find us at media.slash.lit@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And Kris, you always, take the bullet and run through all of our socials, but tell me a little bit about where folks can find you and what else you're up to.
Yes, sir. So aside from hosting this podcast, I'm also the co-host of the Batman by the Numbers podcast and the Pop Break podcast feed for the popbreak.com. Typically, we talk all things Dark Knight. This year, of course, we are in the year of Superman. It's our world's finest era. We'll get back to some Dark Knight as the year goes on, but next we're doing our ultimate Superman draft. So stay tuned to the
Yes.
Pop Break podcast feed for a once a month drop from Batman by the numbers. Aside from that, I'm an actor and a voice actor. I'm a father and a husband, recent cat dad. You can find me doing those things on Instagram and Blue Sky at Kris_Ingersoll. That's Chris spelled like Kringle.
And I'm your host, Randy Elaine. And I would just encourage you to take Chris's advice. Find us over on Media Lit. I've got my socials linked to all of that. I'd love a follow as well, but if you follow Media Lit, that would absolutely make my day in and of itself. You can also find me on the Pop Break. In fact, just before I stepped on this pod, I got together with my Pop Break podcasting hosts on Pod of Doom, a Black Sabbath appreciation podcast, for a little emergency in memoriam episode for Ozzy Osbourne. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not sure, but at some point between now and the Emmy Awards, it could be this week, it could be a little bit closer to the award dates. Take a look for my interview with Eric J. Carlson. This is Adam Scott's body double on Severance. We talked a little bit about how hyped he has been to work on that show and what it means to him to be both a cast member and a fan. So that was a really fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing that one as well. And I think that'll do it. Thank you all for being here, and have a great night.